Otto, your story, your style.
Everyone, all of us has a very, very unique story. But you know what's common between every unique story? It's got success, it's got failure, it's got opportunities, it's got obstacles. You know, one more thing that's common in all of this is that you are the hero. Now the big question here is, who is a hero? Someone who dares to dream, someone who's made a passion a profession, someone whose individual lives has impacted society, and someone whose story is worth sharing. If you agree that this defines a hero, then probably for the next 30 odd minutes on the show today, I have a superhero. Yes, my friends, this man was born with a golden spoon, pun intended with the word gold. But the golden spoon was not enough because he wanted a cutlery of his own. GMG wanted to make a life that he defined was his and uniquely his. Today, it's all about his style. It's about his story. On the show today, on Otto, your story, your style, I have with me George Muthoot George. How are you, sir? Vanakkam and welcome.
Thank you. All good. Good to be back in Chennai.
You know, I'm talking about life itself. It's a homecoming of sorts. You've done so much. You've achieved so much. When one looks at your life, they say, this man has lived a lucky life. This man was born with all the comfort. But there are a few people who say, this man dared to do the different. He's a rebel, but he's also a reluctant entrepreneur. Where would you define who is George Muthoot George and how has life been for you? Lucky, successful, special, or just uniquely yours?
Look, Rajiv, I don't believe in luck. I don't understand why people say so. Just recently, my brother was talking at an event, and he was saying that I don't know. I seem to have all the luck in the world. I don't have to work that hard. Things just happen. Doors just open. I think it's all just about positive energy. You have to be positive about what you want to do in life, and you have to have a positive attitude towards everything else. It's not about, some people call it manifestation, calling out to the universe as such. I don't believe in any of that. I believe that if you set your mind on something, you have to then let go of it as well, instead of constantly focusing on it. Because the more you focus on it, the more I believe it goes away from you. I believe you do everything else that is necessary, and before you know it, it comes your way. That's the way I look at it.
But it's worked very well for you. Whatever it's called, it's definitely worked very well for you.
It has.
You're one of those entrepreneurs, I understand and believe, doesn't see the balance sheet, you see the balance of life, more importantly. What is George Muthoot George's life like? Is it that stress of money, the stress of income? Do you calculate success by the profit and loss statement? You don't look like one at all. You don't live like one at all. You live like, money is not a problem for me. I want to enjoy this moment because that is priceless.
Well, let's put it this way. There's no denying the fact that I've had a life of privilege. And it has come. But at the same time, I was not believed to lead a life of privilege. I had to struggle with a lot of things myself. Now, I believe success should not be measured by financial, parameters. I don't think it should be actually measured by how the world likes to measure success. I mean, if you really ask me, the biggest problem today is that we celebrate a lot of people on the covers of magazines who have achieved financial success. Now, like, making money is not a big deal. I mean, anybody can make money. Making more of it, probably a little bit more challenging, and there are people who make it. But celebrating that alone is not what life is about. I think the way I look at it is that I would love to define success the way I want it, right? It could be a very small thing, it could be a slightly bigger thing. The point being that I want to celebrate my own success. I don't want to do this to prove it to anybody else that this is what success looks like. I mean, there are defined parameters in which people say, this is how you get an award, you get a recognition, you get all of that. And then people say, okay, that is the way to measure success. I don't believe that's the way to measure success at all. I think success is what makes you happy and what brings you true joy. Too many times I think people actually spend time trying to prove to the others what their success story looks like. And I think that is the wrong attitude. I think it's just ingrained in us to be like that. And too or less often do we celebrate the ones who have actually been adding value to life, to people's life, to society, to the environment around us. And I don't think we celebrate them enough.
So you say it so simply that success is self-happiness and impacting people around you. Very simply said. But doesn't that definition of success keep changing? Because what makes you happy 10 years back, what makes you happy today, what makes you happy 10 years later at 45 or 50, whenever you touch that,
right,
always keeps changing. So what is happiness stroke success, which according to you is the same thing? What was it before? And what was it today? And what does it look like in the future?
So probably in the past, I was also in the same boat as everybody else, where success was defined by recognition that others would give for what you did. Probably in my mid 30s to my 40s, what would have been more defining for me would be entrepreneurship. You know, how many different types of businesses I could do, and I started plenty of them. You've seen some of them as well. You've experienced it.
Some closed and some still flourish. We'll talk about the closes. We'll talk about the success.
Yeah. So now, as I move forward, I think in my 50s, I'd like to define success as what really, really makes me happy. And it's not necessarily a big thing. It's not about starting another business. It's not about awards or recognitions anymore.
It's about 4 cars, it's about 4 wheels, it's about luxury holidays. What is it about?
No, those are just things that you look at it as something to keep yourself occupied in between all of that.
That's an expensive occupation that you can afford and very few can.
Probably, but you know, boredom sets in very quickly. All of this is not the final answer of what we're looking for. Probably I'm looking for something much deeper than that. I really can't define it right now. But surely happiness is on top of the list. And happiness could come from very small things, you know. So for example, today I had the CSR for the entire group. Obviously, India is the only country that mandates CSR. When I do CSR projects, I derive a lot of happiness from it. There's a lot of contentment that I get because I get to travel the length and breadth of the country because we have branches everywhere. And to work with people who probably you can call them lesser privileged, and to see how we can transform their lives. That is what really, really gives me delight. Sure, you can point at the privileges that I have and say, isn't that, you know, something that is against what you're doing as far as yes? No, I think happiness or love starts with yourself first. If you can keep yourself happy, if you have self-love, then you can love others. And that's how I look at it.
So just going back to how you started, happiness is really in giving back to society, which is how it's always been defined. Which of the so many CSR projects that you've done for the underprivileged, you've done for the children, you've done for women, empowering a lot of women, shelter, home, security, safety, you've done for this all across the country. If I was to ask you, which was that one activity that you realize that people are not aware about this, no news channel is screaming the nation needs to know, the nation has to know, but you said that this is something that gave you most joy because it impacted a lot of people? Which was that one project? Maybe during COVID, you did a lot during that, post-COVID. What was that?
Well, I seriously cannot point at any single project to say that was the one defining moment.
Since your GMG will give you 3. Top 3.
Well, the way I look at it is, there was this, a couple of years ago, we did a very important project on women's hygiene. And it had to work with urban women, semi-urban and rural women as well, where we wanted to educate women about the use of menstrual cups. And it is less talked about, but it's not just about giving out cups, it is about educating women. And I thought it was targeting 3 main areas. One, of course, education, educating the women, of course. One about women's menstrual hygiene, and third about the environment, because the impact is huge. Because the lesser number of sanitary napkins we have in the drainages of the city, the better it is, I guess. So the thing is that if we look at how we went about that project, we had 4 months we set up call centers all across the city of Kochi. And we were dealing with, panchayats, local villages, semi-urban areas on the outskirts of the city as well. And we educated them about menstrual cups, and there were a lot of questions. We worked along with the IMA. And then finally, on the day, we distributed 100,000 menstrual cups, which incidentally set a Guinness Book of World Records.
Wow.
For the maximum number of women's hygiene products distributed in 24 hours.
Lovely.
That had a huge impact.
Fantastic. Through this entire journey, I understand the mind is a platinum mind that you have, and the heart is a golden heart that you are working with. We'll continue our conversation, George Muthoot George. But they always say time is money. I'm sure you heard about that. So you look at these great entrepreneurs, they say every minute is actually minting money in the bank balance. I've heard of this. I obviously haven't witnessed this. I'm only losing my time, not earning the money. But I'm sure you've gone across this and people have told you that, George Muthoot George, every minute that you are living and breathing and sleeping and talking, your bank balance is shooting up this much. What's the value of per minute of GMG? I'm sure you know the answer.
No, I have never calculated that. In fact, this is exactly what I was telling you earlier. I do not want to measure my life by every minute by what value it brings to me. That is the most ridiculous thing, according to me. And this is, again, the success mantra that is sold across the world. People are like, Elon Musk probably makes this much money, or Mukesh Ambani makes this much money within the hour, within the minute.
Yeah.
Is that the total measurement of a person's life? Where's the impact? It's about how much money they make. I really find that very strange. So yes, the most precious resource you have, or anybody for that matter has, is time. Yes. But to put a value on it based on how much they make is the most ridiculous thing. I think to put a value on how much impact it has on other people's lives, I would say that's far better measurement of your time.
You said a sentence in the previous segment. You said that, making money is easy, and you moved on to what is difficult. That question and that sentence of mine keeps ringing in my head. Making money is easy. Now, no Harvard, no Oxford, no Yale, no IIT will tell you making money is easy. How would you say, or why would you say making money is easy? If one decides that I want to earn money, what is the way to do it?
Well, I think there's a bit of entrepreneurship in all of us, let's put it that way. The way I look at it is that if you look at the success stories across dotting this countryside at least, you have people who've come from not so privileged backgrounds, and today they've all made it big, and more people. These young entrepreneurs are a perfect example of how, if you set your mind to it, you can make money. How you make money is more important. What are the value sets you have? What is the kind of business idea that you have? What are the gaps you want to fill? So when you talk about, let's say my family, for example, we have 800 years of history. We have a family history book that goes back 800 years. So I'm the 19th generation, but not in the present business. The family business has constantly been evolving, changing. So in the present avatar of the business, I'm the 4th generation. But the point of the book is not about how to make money. I'm sure there are enough examples in that book. But what is more important is what are the values that have been handed down from one generation to another. And I think that value system is most important. So once again, it's not about making money. It's about how you do it and with what value set. If you have the right value set, I believe making money is very easy.
They say making money is all right. Managing your money is where the task is. So is GMG someone who knows where his money goes, knows how much he spends, knows how much he earns? Or is it like, I have my team to handle this, jo hoga dekha jayega? Or do you actually spend on some, try to save where you get the best deal? What's your money management mindset like?
Truth be told, I'm really, really bad with that. But I do have...
You can afford to be bad with that.
Well, probably, yeah. But the thing is, it's not even, like I said, there was a time that money interested me, but now I have more than enough for I don't know how many lifetimes. But that's not the point. The point is I do have a team that manages it for me. Clearly, I give them an objective and I say, this is it. And it should have that level of impact and how much wealth creation, how much they add to it. So they have guidelines which they follow. After that, it's just about overseeing that. They do the finer details of it, so I don't have to worry about how the money is invested. The point I'm trying to make is where the money is invested is also a point. Is it into sustainable businesses? Is it into businesses that have the right values, right levels of, let's say, ethics, integrity, reliability? Those are the kind of businesses I would like to invest in.
You seem to be this rebel. So here is a very interesting line where some values I am going to take and some values I don't want to take because that is not my personal character. That's not me. Are you a rebel?
I wouldn't call myself a rebel. I just wanted to do things my way. I don't know if that's being rebellious.
That's a nice, very nice way of saying I am a rebel. I just want to do things my way.
No. Don't get me wrong here. It's not like I would say I wanted to do things my way as long as it did not affect other people's lives in a bad way. Let's put it that way. Because if you want to identify a true rebel, they're only thinking about themselves and they don't care what happens to the rest of society or people around them. For me, that's important as well. So doing it my way doesn't mean that it should be harmful to somebody else and destroy their peace of mind. Yes, it can be difficult and challenging for them to accept a different path, but that path, like I said, cannot be detrimental towards the larger family or towards society as well. So in that way, yes, I have been a rebel. I like to do things differently. I like to see management very differently as well, from what my great-grandfather was doing or my grandfather was doing and right down to my father. My father, obviously like anybody's father, has been the idol. He has taught me so much that I think I have been able to. In fact, I was speaking about very recently somebody that I've been able to imbibe what he taught me and use it in my own way and refresh it, if that's the word I'm looking for, where I've been able to fine-tune it to the way I want it without losing the essence of it. I know it's very difficult to explain. So my father is a very charismatic person. He's like what we call a personality type A++++, very much in your face. But he did teach me a lot of values about trust, integrity, reliability. All of these are very important. I uphold those. There's nothing that I would do, as you call, rebelliously, that would go against any of this value system. But his management philosophy was different. How he motivated his team, how he got his team to run. There was always this, how do I say it? He always had this little bit of an invisible wall between him and this thing. They said, one must not cross that line. I don't see that wall. With me, it's always personal. I like to know the individual I'm working with, each and every one of them, as many as I can. And I like to become very attached to them, personal with them. And that has a huge influence on how my team works with me and how I work with my team.
How was it when everything looked so normal, so nice, so comforted, when one fine day, from nowhere, you realized that the comfort of a father was physically no more there? It came as a shock to the industry. It must have come as a shocker to the entire family. Dive me through things that you might not be able to rewind to the past, you might not be able to say again to the past, but you feel it and you still connect to it. How was the day like? And tell me about the relationship with your father.
Well, that's a very loaded question, Rajiv. There's a lot to emotions behind that as well. Yes, it was quite sudden when we lost my father. For the entire family, I guess, even for the business community as well. The thing is, it all started when I lost my brother in 2009. It was quite the shock for me because when you think about him, he was younger to me. The fact that, you think when you're young or you're at that age in your 20s or 30s, you believe you are immortal. Life goes on. You're always planning for tomorrow. That's one of the most audacious nature of human beings, unlike any other species on the planet, that we actually plan for tomorrow, right? And we plan for day after. We even plan years ahead that what we want to do. And when you think about it from that perspective, what gives you the assurance that you would be there? So I have this joke when I tell my friends, and they say like, "Oh, so are we meeting tomorrow for 6?" I say, "If I'm still alive, yes, we will meet." And they say, "Why are you so pessimistic, dark?" I'm not being pessimistic. In fact, I'm being realistic. I'm being optimistic. I would say, if I'm alive, I will be there. I didn't say I will not be there. I just said if I'm alive. But that is important for us to realize that the mortality of our lives. And from my brother's death to my father's death, I realized that I could lose anybody any moment. I lose myself, that's fine, because the ones who grieve the most are the ones who sadden the most, are the ones left behind. So yes, I do miss him. I would love for him to be around, still guiding. And this is something that I actually told my brother as well, because obviously he was upset as well. And I told him, we're very fortunate that we lost our father in our 40s, right? We didn't lose him when we were 5 years old or 10 or in our teens. We lost him in 40s. I believe he has taught us as much as he could teach us. Possibly there might be very little more to learn. Now it's for us to fill those shoes, but do it our way. Again, what you call the rebellious nature comes in. But do it our way, the way we want to do it, but carry on the legacy.
In every story we're a hero, and this hero has so many characters. One character that you played ever since you were born is the role of a son. How do you define yourself as a son? Were you the best? Was your brother slightly better? Or how would you define yourself as a son today who really looks after his mother? Your family really looks after your mother as well. How would you define yourself as a son?
Quite interesting. Let's go back to my childhood a little bit. Do you believe...
Not a little bit, it's a long bit. It's 50 years.
50 years of it, yes, you're right. 5 decades of it. No, the way I would look at it is this. Do you believe in star signs or sun signs, as they call it, yeah? You don't. But then there are certain people who do. So if I were to look at my star sign, as they call it, or the zodiac sign, I'm a Piscean. People in the audience who might know about zodiacs. Now, Pisceans are the quietest introverts you'll ever come across. And I was like that up to 7th grade, I believe, where my parents used to come to school for the PTA. And obviously, I wouldn't be achieving much in class. And the part that they would always be nice to my parents to say, your son has great potential. It's a way of saying he's good for nothing, but possibly he could turn into something better, So this potential thing I've been hearing for years, and I think about 7th grade, I decided consciously to change myself. So I had to really come out of my shell as an introvert and become an extrovert. So the first thing I did was I joined the debate team, I joined theater, I joined the music group, I joined anything that I could possibly join. And I realized that the more I subjected myself to it, the lesser discomfort I had about being out in public. The change that happened at home was a huge transformation, because now if you speak to my mother, she said, this was the quietest boy we had in the family. Now we just can't get him to shut up, okay? I talk and I talk and talk. I guess there's a new definition to it. People call them ambiverts, introverts who have an extrovert side. So I'm an ambivert now, let's put it that way, if you had to put it into a particular category. So my relationship with my parents as a child was very different from what it is today, because I was very quiet. I always wanted to be alone. I would either be reading or listening to music, and I didn't want to mingle too much with them. Today is a different thing. Today, specifically after my father passed on, I think it has become more of a responsibility to be upfront, take leadership roles where I didn't want to take leadership roles, but I'm comfortable with that, thankfully, because now I'm an ambivert.
You are definitely the Shashi Tharoor of the entrepreneurial world. Ambivert. I'm learning skills and words and wisdom. Is your advice to today youngsters saying, seek an opportunity where you can make money and then get into it, or find your passion and get into that? How important is passion towards a profession? You do everything that you love to do.
I think it's an interesting question. People say you have to be passionate about what you do. I say passion is the most important thing, because if you're passionate about what you're doing, it doesn't seem like work anymore. Then you dedicate your life to it. It becomes part of you. You become part of whatever you start. So passion is very important, and it's not just about passion. Like I said, you need to be so involved with it, it cannot look like work. So that's important. The other part about fear that you mentioned, I think fear is a very primordial instinct that all of us have as species. And when I say fear, people actually look at it from a very negative perspective. They say, okay, fear is always negative. But fear can be positive. It can be motivating. It can actually get you to do good things, not always bad. So people are looking at fear very wrongly. So if you really understand what fear does and what fear has done in the history of humanity and whatever we've created, it's wonderful. I think it's a great thing. Now the question is, how do you harness it and how do you use it in the right way? And that's the most important thing. So there is fear of failure. Some people actually have fear of success as well. They don't want to succeed. They do it for different reasons. But if you master fear, I believe your calmness with how you deal with situations, whether success or failure, will attract more positive vibes towards you.
Which was this business decision of yours that was turned out to be a great idea on paper, but in practice it bombed, it was a failure? And why did it fail? Did you take some lessons and learnings out of that one?
Rajiv, one of the best things I feel as I'm growing older is partial dementia.
Conveniently.
Yeah. So it helps me forget a lot of things that have led to what you call failure in certain businesses.
What are the lessons, or why did you fail in certain ventures?
I think sometimes it was what I would call a little way ahead of its time. I guess it was something that
Example?
I thought, like for example, Chennai Live, is a perfect example of how wanted to introduce India's first talk radio station. It was the only radio station that was named after the city. But apparently people were not really ready for a talk radio station. But today they are. At that point of time, it was all about music. And I thought music is not the only thing to be played on a radio station, because then you're competing with somebody else's iPod or music player. The idea is that radio should have some value in your life. There's print media, there's television, digital media. But what can radio do? Has video really killed the radio star is the question. And I always wanted to bring radio back into people's lives so that it would have some impact. It was the same with some couple of restaurants that I started as well, and those also bombed. It was quite funny because I wanted to merge two ideas about Indian eating traditions with modern day cafes and bring it together. Today, and then I'm talking about 2006, 2007, today I see a lot of cafes in cities like Chennai and maybe Kochi, Coimbatore, all of these places, where that same concept has come alive and people are loving it. I guess I was a little way ahead of my time.
I think instead of dementia, you should be having slow thinking. Just think a bit slower, you'll be in time.
Possibly, yeah.
I think today, a lot of fear is there in decision making and commitment towards a cause. So what is the best decision that you've taken in your life, and what's the decision that you regret? Now, philosophically, you can tell me I don't regret any decision, but that's not an answer I'm going to accept, because you're a very wise man and there are a few things that you've learned from. Your best decision till date and your regrettable, not the worst, but regrettable decision you've taken. We all have them.
Rajiv, I would just say that is such a difficult question to answer. What is the best decision? There's so many of them. How do I even gauge and say this was better than...
Tell me one that you feel so proud of, and maybe the scenario you took it in was so different that today when you look back, say, I'm so proud I took that, because I may not have taken that in a different scenario.
Well, possibly... the way I planned out my education, I really wanted to do things my way. Is one of the best decisions I could have taken. For example, I got admission to St. Stephen's College for my undergrad. My father was very happy about that. But then I wanted to do hotel management. And I went all the way to Manipal, in a place that I didn't even know existed till that day. And so he was really upset. And he said, why do you want to be a glorified waiter? In those days, hotel management wasn't really that important, was not very relevant. I took that decision, and I'm glad I did, because I spent the best 3 years of my life in Manipal. It's not about what I learned in the class, but what I learned outside of it that was important. But that was just one decision. I can keep going on and on after that. Every decision I made in terms of getting into hospitality, getting into the radio industry, getting into restaurants, getting into all sorts of businesses, actually. I think all of those are decisions I celebrate personally. They might not all be, successful,
glorified
decisions,
Yeah.
but
They
I
make
feel
you proud and happy.
They make me proud.
They make you you.
Regret. Today, like I said, I'm being very frank and
No,
open
no, no.
with you.
I'm supposed to be a very good host, so I have to get an answer. It's a question of my pride on the seat.
No.
One thing you bought, you're like, I never even needed this. Why did I buy it?
Well, actually, if you really ask me that question, 95% of whatever I have, I really don't need it. Come to think of it, But I have it. I enjoy it. But no regrets. Seriously, no regrets.
If I was to ask you before we take a break, tell me 5 things that you own and you're very proud of.
I'm a collector of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I collect art. I collect watches. I collect sports cars. I collect vinyl records. I used to collect. It started from early days when I used to collect stamps. Now I don't think stamps are relevant anymore. I don't even know what to do with my stamp collection. But I like to collect, and I don't know why. There is this thing about things that are old, vintage, or for that matter, even something that is that I'm passionate about, that I would love to get involved with. It teaches me much more than what I'm doing, because most of the time I always whenever I interview somebody for a very important position, one of the first questions I ask them, what is your hobby? Because I want to understand what they're passionate about apart from work. And that hobby plays a very important role in how they will function in the organization, because then it helps me also understand the person better.
Did you say you collect sports cars?
Yeah.
You collect sports cars?
Yeah, I do.
Can we get into your garage and understand how many cars you have and your favorite car?
Really? Do we
Yeah,
need to-
what's the value of those sports cars? Yeah.
But it's
It just gives joy. It has no money value. It just makes me happy. Correct? Am I on George's chair?
Yeah, it makes me happy.
Yeah.
But it's not about collecting sports cars. It's about what these cars do for me in terms of what value it adds. Not in terms of the actual value of the car, but for me, driving these cars probably very early in the morning on empty roads, with, of course, safety concerns and all of those kind of things, staying within, as much as possible, within the legal speed limits. I think these cars help me focus on a lot of things as well. Your mind goes away from everything else, and you're just focused on the road. You're in the car, you're driving. For me, it's not just what I'm driving, but how I'm driving it, how, in a very interesting sort of way, how I become part of the car.
Does it scare you, this startup bug that is there? Everybody outside college, they say, I have friends, I have common interests, I have some money. If I pitch this in, whoa, I've got an investor, I can make it big. That seems to be the bug that everyone's in the mindset of. What's right? What's wrong? For a young entrepreneur, what's the path ahead?
It's interesting that you talk about startups. The problem is they just stay as startups. People are not starting this with the passion that in yesteryears people used to start businesses with. They are looking at when can I exit this business. So the idea is you identify a gap, a need as such. You get into it, use technology, of course, invest beautifully into it, find angel investors, whatever, and try and find the best exit route out of that while you're still in your 30s, if not your early 40s. It's become a money game, it's become a valuation game. And I think that, for me at least, in my way of looking at it, I'm not saying the money is wrong. I'm not saying the valuation is not to be chased. I'm saying, did you start the business with the objective of selling it? Or did you start the business because you really want to take it forward? I'm not judging everybody, but by and large, I do see a lot of youngsters who are exiting businesses, then they want to start another one with the money they get, and another one, and another one. Serial entrepreneurship is also good. But sometimes I question the motive behind it.
What's your take on getting investments in, raising funds? Is that important for a business to grow?
It is. After all, capital is the most important thing that any business needs. Possibly the best form of capital would be investment, right? Equities that come in. The problem starts in the boardroom, where the passion with what you started, the objective which you started, starts changing. And then everybody's trying to make a buck out of it. So then it's not then run by the people who started the business. Possibly it's being run by the PE or the PE investor. I feel that's where it all goes wrong. So then who is really passionate about the business is the question. Who is really worried about the customers they're serving? Who's really worried about the impact they're having? The only impact they're worried about is how much money they're making and what's in the bank account.
If you were not born into the Muthoot family, if it was just the individual, George, that we see, what would you be? Would you still be into businesses? Would you be a singer? Because you're a charismatic singer, I know that. And they don't know that. They don't know that.
Oh, really?
And they ought to know that.
Why?
I think talent should never be hidden. All right. So what would you be otherwise? And minus the office setup and your boardrooms, who's George Muthoot George, minus the Muthoot identity?
I've never had a celebrity or anybody else as my idol or icon or whatever you want to call them. If you ask me today, who would I like to have dinner with or have coffee with? Nobody. But if there's one individual who's had the maximum impact on my life, apart from my father, of course, it would be David Attenborough, because I grew up watching all his BBC documentaries on wildlife. So if I were not part of this family, I would love to do what he's doing, right? If not that, possibly be a photographer for National Geographic, travel to every nook and corner of this planet, see things that others haven't seen, experience it, possibly document it for the future, to see what we really have as wealth is all of this.
There's a man like you who says, I can have anything on my fingertips, is what people believe it to be. Do you have unfulfilled dreams? Do you have a broken heart? Do you feel that void sometimes?
But the void is very different. The void is not because I have unfulfilled dreams. Possibly, I know this is going to sound very strange, possibly my issue is with what I have been born into and what I have. It's like the monk who sold his Ferrari. There is a good possibility that I would want to walk away from all of this and possibly a search for myself somewhere. There's this constant search, this constant introspection. Because for me, everything in life, everything around me, whenever I see things, inspires me. Nature, of course, inspires me the most. But there are so many miracles to be witnessed there. So for me, life is beautiful, okay? And I always say the best is yet to come. But I would say life is absolutely spectacularly beautiful for me. Everything that I see, everything that I experience, I know there are negative moments, there are sad moments where you feel like, where are we going with this? And are we flushing it all down the toilet? But that's not the way to look at it. Life will survive, but will we is the question, The earth has been around for more than 4 billion years. We occupy a very small part of that time. And we want to think that we run everything and we will outlive everything else as well. That's not true. So that love for everything around me that exists and continues to exist even without my intervention is what I really want to explore and this thing. So that's possibly, I don't get enough time for that. Maybe that's my biggest regret in life, and that's what I want to be.
The best is yet to come, as you say. And let me ask you, what is yet to come? In your vision, where does GMG see himself or his life in the next couple of years?
I don't like to plan that.
Yeah, because you never know tomorrow morning if we will be around or not.
If you're alive or not, right? So I don't want to plan it. I like to say that every day should be very different.
Yeah.
And when I say the best is yet to come, I believe in the 5 decades that I have spent on this planet at least, I feel that I've actually learned and I have experienced new things to keep an open mind to it. The problem with planning apart from the audacious nature, is that you have a set goal and you want to do certain things and you want to achieve it in a certain time, and you put too many restrictions on yourself. Then you are not open to new ideas. You're not open to newer experiences, maybe a whole different path of learning, because you just want to go in one direction, because that you've already set the goal for yourself. It could be a financial number, it could be something else. But I'm saying, why do that to yourself? Why not just keep your mind open? Like I said, you think about it, let it go. Do whatever you want to do today. Tomorrow will bring something else possibly, and that will show you another path. Some people call it manifestation. I said, don't think about it every day. Don't dream about it every day.
Do it and let it go.
Just think about it and let it go, and do what you can do for that day and move forward. Don't restrain yourself with all these limitations that I have to do this in such a time period. That just completely ruins it for me.
No, very well said. And final question to you. Some people say it's an amazing life story. My question is the story of your life. Today, if you have to define the wonderful story that you have authored, you've been the hero of, you've embarked upon, how would you define your life till date?
Absolutely happy. Very pleasant experience so far. Like I said, I just find life so beautiful. Everything that I've experienced, like you said, you called it regrets, failures, successes, happiness. At the end of the day, all I feel right now is pure bliss and happiness. Whether I have things I have today or I don't have it, I don't think I will be affected by that. I think life is not, even though you say that I plan things, yes, we all plan things in our life and say, what do you want to do tomorrow? What do you want to do with your life? But life has a way of, changing things around. That has taught me a lot. I wasn't the same when I was in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s. But today I can say confidently that life for me in every decade begins all over again. Okay, so when I hit my 40s, I was like, life starts now, right? And now that I'm hitting my 50s, I'm like, life really starts now, right? So every time it's a renewal of that energy and saying life starts now. It's not like, oh, I'm feeling really old, and some people say age is a number, and no, that's not the point. The point is, how well are you taking care of yourself? And I'm not talking about yourself physically, but your mental health. And people don't want to talk about mental health these days. Mental health is a big issue in our country, across the world as well, but specifically in India. And not many people want to talk about it. I think mental health is the most important thing. There's too much of stress on physical health. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of things that have also happened post-COVID we have not addressed. I think if we can focus on ourselves in truly keeping ourselves happy, I think every decade, every year can be a refresher for us. And we look at it from a very positive angle. Nobody has everything in life. I like the way you point out, like, oh, you're a man of privilege, you can get anything you want. That is not true. Nobody can get everything that they want. Even the ones who have everything. I mean, look at Jeff Bezos. He has all the money in the world, but he doesn't have hair on his head, as they said. I mean, jokes apart, nobody gets everything. The fact is, you have to learn to be happy with what you have. And the moment you find true happiness with what you have and what you can do with that, that's all that matters.
I thought this story and the style statement of George Muthoot George was about money, entrepreneurial success, and life lessons. Little did I realize that this book is about self-help, self-growth, and a wonderful life story. It's been amazing having you, George Muthoot George. Of course, when you toss a coin, on one side it's heads or tails. Sometimes it's the right one, sometimes it's the wrong one that you pick. But I've realized through your gold coin story that no matter which side the coin falls on, it's bright, it's wonderful, it's going to add some light to our lives. Thank you very much. I've met a great entrepreneur. I've met a successful life story. It's been great having you on Otto, your story, your style. Thank you very much, George Muthoot George.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you.